All right. So God said, let there be light, and there was light. Now, I'd like to step back from this just a little bit because one of the things I've kind of have had a deeper understanding about even in this last year is how deeply this passage in Genesis 1 is parallel, reflected upon in John chapter 1. And, I think most of us have known that right there in John chapter 1, in the beginning. So he very deliberately starts the same way as Genesis 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And then he talks about this creation. He was with God in the beginning, and through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Now, again, we probably have heard that parallel before, but maybe we can go a little bit deeper here. One of the things you see, obviously, they both begin with that same phrase, in the beginning. And the first one, Genesis, describes God creating all things, and he does that. The first thing he creates is light. So the light is there maybe as a way for all the other things to have life, because we obviously cannot have life here for the most part, maybe not at all, without the sun. So the light creates that life, and it is the light then that's this formative part of creation, the first thing that needs to happen. So again, here in John, what were we told? All things were made through him. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. So it's almost like he's saying that just as God created all things, and he begins with the light in Genesis chapter 1, now here in John chapter 1, there is a new creation coming. And the architect of this is Jesus. In him was this life that is now going to be spreading. It's a new kind of existence through this different kind of life. And the first thing that happens then is this light. Jesus comes in then bearing the life, but also showing the light, because he's showing what this life is about. And it says the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. So again, just as in Genesis 1, the light shines into the darkness and it stays there, always being light. So here, the darkness cannot overcome this light. Now, where is this going? Well, one further verse here before we go into that. Verse 9. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. So the true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. Here's what I think is going on in John's mind. He is deliberately reflecting on Genesis 1 and God's creation of the physical universe. Along in that physical universe is humanity as the point of that and kind of the crown of all that. But now there's a new creation coming. There's this new creation that's planted within the soil, like a seed planted within the soil of the old creation. It's planted within this world, which morally is darkness. And it starts with one person. It starts with Jesus bringing forth the light. Jesus brings the light just as God did in Genesis chapter 1. And the idea then is this: God is forming something new. God is forming a new creation with a new humanity. Now, there is a sense in which later on, Paul seems to view this more as this life and this creation being the seed of this next one. And so our body being a very seed of the body that will be. An acorn is different. It looks different. It has a different size, of course, than the oak tree. But the oak tree has a continuity with the acorn because it came from that. And Paul, in 1 Corinthians 15, applies that to our bodies as believers. We are planted like an acorn, but what comes out of that is not just a bigger acorn or a better acorn, but a different kind of life. So I think that same idea, although John approaches it a little different way, is this. God is out of the soil of this present world creating something entirely new. entirely better. He will describe that in some places as a new heaven and a new earth. And in that new heaven and new earth, there will be those who are the bearers of God's image within that. And that will be the redeemed mankind. And that starts by Jesus bringing in the light. So we see John reflecting on this, but also advancing it. And here's what's kind of good to think about then, spiritually. It's a question that comes into our mind, right? I don't know who's watching this sometimes. Do you know that you're part of this new humanity? It comes from Jesus, and it comes by trust and faith in Jesus and what Jesus has done. And if we are, then we can rejoice in that. We can rejoice that even though in this world we will have trouble, as Jesus says, in this world there is evil and suffering and pain, from the soil of this world becomes a new one. And we have a part in that. We have a part in that by God's grace through Jesus. It is all through Jesus. He is the light of the world. He is a true light that comes in and creates a new world and a new humanity. Praise be to him.